Good morning, everyone. As Lisa just mentioned, my name is Veronica Corral. Excuse me. I work at Cuyamaca College, and I was graciously contacted to make this presentation. Before I begin, I want to do a quick disclaimer. I am not a career counselor. Actually, counseling was my previous career, but right now I coordinate a program. So I'll go off of that. And again, I'll provide information. But again, I want to begin by saying that I'm really excited, and I was really, how can I put it? I don't know, like I really, really like this type of information. So I hope that all of you get something out of it. I do want to say that this is not my data and not my information. I was able to use a lot of resources that I will be sharing with each one of you. That way you're able to obtain more information, or again, refer your students to some of this information as well. Okay, so for today, our agenda is going to be the following. Again, what are the things that we can do as institutions to help in this issue? I also am going to go over some terminology that we want to be able to make sure that we understand when supporting any documented or undocumented students. We also are going to go over best practices of support. And then I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty, which is, I'm pretty sure, what you're here today, which will be some income and career options for DACAmented as well as undocumented status students. So again, to begin, I want to give you a little bit more information about myself. I actually came to the US when I was 16 years old. I always tell my students I can never say like I understand exactly what they're going through in terms of their status, because I didn't go through the same experience that they did. However, I do feel that my experience as an immigrant has helped me connect with students as well. So I'm going to go over that as one of the best practices, but I definitely want to kind of share out with you all here. So I came when I was 16 years old. To be honest, I had no idea how the system worked here in the US. I was born in Guadalajara, then I moved to Tijuana, and then I came to the US. I didn't know the language. Again, I had been a resident for a couple of years, but I never lived here before. So it was very shocking when I had to come here. And actually for my first year, again, a shocking experience that happened to me. First of all, like coming to a different country, not knowing the language, not knowing anyone. And at that point, actually, I was crossing the border every day, but that was actually was during 9/11. So as you all recall, something devastating happened to US in that year. So after that, I actually had to start crossing the border or going to the border around 4 in the morning. So it was very challenging again for me, not only for the language, but because of that, being tired, again, not having enough time to do homework. So again, college, to be honest, was never in the radar for me because my family, I'm actually the youngest out of 5. I'm so sorry for that echo. I'm not sure where that's coming from. So sorry about that. I'm so sorry. If you wouldn't mind, can you turn off your microphones for me? I believe
that's all.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry about that. Technical difficulties. So again, I came to this country. I went to high school. My last year in high school, I actually had to move high schools because my family and I ended up coming to the US. So that was, again, another change, another challenge. Again, being a senior, I didn't know how college worked. Again, it wasn't in my mind. Thankfully, I attended San Diego City College. So, I'm sorry, San Diego High School, which is next to San Diego City College. So because of a few friends, I decided to apply. I have to be honest, it wasn't the easiest transition either. My paperwork, like it took a while to process, financial aid, things like that. So I can only imagine how hard it could be for students who don't have financial aid. And I don't want to outdate myself, but this was back in 2005. So it has been a while for that. So again, I can only tell you that I have, in a way, experienced similar challenges as our undocumented or DACAmented students. Because again, like the lack of maybe some members of our family knowing how college worked, how to support us, again, being first generation college students, and again, facing other things as well, and sometimes our families not knowing. So I do want to mention that, believe it or not, if you have, and you don't have to have something similar to this, but definitely know that it's very, very important that when working with undocumented students, that you connect with them as much as possible. It doesn't mean that you want to say, I know exactly how you feel, because even if you experienced or had some undocumented like status before, it's probably not the same experience that they had. But again, like keeping that into consideration, knowing again how to connect with students, that's definitely something that you want to make sure that you always again think of. I do want to share a quick video real quickly, just to give you a quick idea. I know maybe some of you are already working with undocumented students, but if you're not, I really want you to pay attention to the next video for me.
Joel, Michelle, nice to meet you. Hi. Hi. How are you? I'm doing good. How you doing? I'm good. Hi, my name is Fifita. Nice to meet you. I'm Daniel. Nice to meet you. Beautiful young lady. Thank you. My name is Liliana Naki. My name is Jamila. Nice to meet you. Nice. Nice name. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I only do hugs, so I'm not very good at meeting strangers. Hello, I'm Katia. Nice to meet you. Amira, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Research with babies. I love kids. I love kids too. Have you seen X-Men? Like the TV show or the movie? Are you familiar with X-Men? Kind of. How old are you? I'm 23. 23, okay. I'm 18. I'm a political science student at UCLA. I was supposed to share something with you. I just needed to tell you a little secret about my story.
Veronica, can you put it up just a little bit for the sound?
For about 26 years. I guess I want to let you know. You good? I'm good. Me and my family are here undocumented. Do you know what that means? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I am an undocumented citizen in this country, so I'm undocumented. When I stayed from school, that I couldn't afford to pay for my school, I became undocumented. When I was in high school, that's when I learned that I didn't have a social security number. That's when I realized that I was undocumented. Okay.
I'm so sorry. I just got a quick message that I need to probably want to increase the volume a little bit. I apologize. Let me make sure. Actually.
Hi, Veronica. I think we've lost all sound, including yours, from your headphones.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
There you go. Okay. Let me put it.
Joel, Michelle, nice to meet you.
Is that better?
It's very low, so I think that you just have to put it up as high as it can go, and we'll have to do it on our end too.
Yeah, mine is already all the way up though. And I can always share the link. Let me see. I apologize.
Sure, and that would be a great idea too, to share the link so that again.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Have you seen X-Men? Like the TV show or the movie? Are you familiar with X-Men? Kind of. How old are you? I'm 23. 23, okay. I'm 18.
Sorry.
Share something with you. I just needed to tell you a little secret about my story.
Already getting nervous.
I have a very big secret I've been holding in for about 26 years.
I guess I want to let you know. You good? I'm good. Me and my family are here undocumented. Do you know what that means? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I am an undocumented citizen in this country, so I'm undocumented. When I stayed from school, that I couldn't afford to pay for my school, I became undocumented.
When I was in high school, that's when I learned that I didn't have a social security number. That's when I realized that I was undocumented. Okay.
I'm undocumented, and I live with the fear every day. Are you curious where I'm from?
Yeah, definitely.
What's your guess?
Not say Korea.
I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Oh, no way. I am originally from the Philippines.
Belize City.
What I want to do with my political science major degree is go into public health policy and management and, advocate for the rights of undocumented immigrants.
I think that, human life is a little bit more important than just like, things that you say on paper.
I can't really hate on that because, that's how my family got it. My grandparents were undocumented. So I understand.
This is the country of opportunity. You're right.
I'm about to graduate, so that's terrific. I feel like we should have a hug.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your story. I think it's beautiful. Thank you so much. Oh, maybe kind of got It's okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So again, I will definitely share the link. That way each one of you has a chance to hear that. Honestly, the main thing that I would want you to get out of it, and again, for those of you who are already working with undocumented students, you probably have had maybe some similar experiences. It's interesting how sometimes we think that they look like a certain way, and sometimes it's not the case. Again, each student has a different story, so definitely be open to that. Definitely in our position as educators, as staff members, we definitely want to validate their effort and the fact that they're in school pursuing higher education. But something I definitely would want you to get out of this too is understanding how difficult sometimes it is to disclose such a thing. Again, for some of us that we haven't been in that situation, sometimes we don't understand how that feels. And as one of the students that were there, she was saying it wasn't only her, but also her entire family. So understanding that some of our students come from what we call mixed status families, it could be the case sometimes that maybe they got here at 1 year old, and then they had other siblings who they were born in the US. So their situation might be a little bit different. But again, having an open mind and more than anything, showing that you care. Honestly, that's the main thing. So I just wanted to start with that. So again, I want to go over what are the things that we can do as colleges to support students. Definitely become familiar with your resources. So figure out with many community colleges, they might have some resources for undocumented students, and their name might vary. Like, for example, for Cuyamaca College, we have the RISE program. So it's called Resources for Immigrant Students in Education. But in other colleges, it might be called Dream Center. I know City College is called Subir. So again, being as informed as possible. Again, whether you're faculty, staff member, please, please, please take some time because it could make a difference for a student. Definitely create and encourage students to apply for fellowships. So we're gonna go over that in a minute. And I have a panel that will be sharing how they did some of those things. Referring students to entrepreneurship programs in your campus, and I'm gonna go over the why in that. Again, advise students to take business classes, and again, I'm gonna go over that in a minute as well. Definitely promote and support worker cooperative business. And again, all of this is going to make sense in a minute. Identify any local service providers to eventualize.org. Again, I'm going to explain that too. And if possible, again, especially if you're working with a program specific targeting or assisting undocumented students, maybe creating something specific to them, because again, that will show how much you care. Again, if it's in your hands. And again, I'm gonna show different examples for the why of these things. So a few things, again, I mentioned that I wanted to make sure I go over really quickly as some important terminology when working or assisting undocumented students. The first thing is undocumented. There's some students that, again, for different circumstances, they got here in the US and they have no documentation. What that means is some individuals, again, they don't have a visa, they got here for whatever way they crossed the border, they got to the US. Some of them might be asylum. So they have, again, different experiences, but there's a very big number that is considered undocumented. And again, I'm gonna explain why in a minute, the importance of that. AB 540, if you see here in the picture, and again, I'll be sharing all of these resources. This is actually information that was posted by this website called Immigrants Rising. If you're not aware of that website, I would definitely recommend, especially if you're already working with undocumented students, or again, you wanna know more of ways that you can support them, definitely do that. It has different resources that can help you tremendously. So again, one of the things that sometimes we see is like people don't often like see or know the difference between these things. AB 540 is basically a law that provides in-state tuition to students. So you might have heard like sometimes when students apply for college, they have to prove residency. And that doesn't mean, whenever you hear that, and please know this, because students freak out about it too. Like in their mind is, oh, residency in terms of immigration status, and that's not it. That means like they need to provide documentation to the admissions office of the college, whether or not they have lived and paid taxes, or again, like basically live in California for more than a year. For most of our students, again, depending on the circumstances, they fulfill that requirement if they attended a high school for 3 years. And they will fulfill that requirement by just submitting their transcripts showing that they attended California high school for those 3 years. But there are other ways too that they can do it. Again, depending on the circumstances of the students, some of our students might have 1 or 2 years in high school, but they still need to finish GED. So again, figuring that out, like what the situation of the student is, but do know that all like residency officers, basically the people who will assist the students to clear that status, are definitely open to help the students as much as possible. The other thing I want to talk about real quickly is the California DREAM Act. So for some of you, you might be familiar with the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So that free application includes federal and state financial aid, and that's usually given to U.S. citizens and permanent residents. However, because of either undocumented status or AB 540 or DACA, some students do not qualify to do FAFSA. So the part that can get a little bit tricky is, remember, with DACA, they obtain a working permit and a social security number, but it's not sufficient and it's not considered U.S. citizen. It's not a change of status. So they cannot really use that to complete the FAFSA. So any students, again, under these circumstances, they actually have to complete the California DREAM Act. So we're actually very fortunate that in our state, there's some financial aid available to our students. But I do want to clarify that it's only state financial aid, it's not federal financial aid. So it is limited. And if you think about it, for students that do qualify for FAFSA, they qualify for federal and state financial aid. So I hate calling it this way, but in a way, our undocumented or DACAmented students are competing for financial aid with other students as well. So I always tell students, complete your application as early as possible. Now that it opens up in October, preferably way before March 2nd, but March 2nd is the deadline for them. So again, very important information that we want to make sure our students are aware of. And again, the last thing is the DACA, which is Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which is the permit that they obtain to work in the U.S. And I'm going to give a little bit more information on that as well. But again, I do want to clarify, it does not provide protection in terms of like them being considered residents or U.S. citizens. So real quickly, again, I want to go over some of the best practices that we have seen. Again, this is and me in terms of talking about my campus. I will definitely encourage you to take some time to talk to your students. Something that we did at Cuyamaca before we kind of rebranded our program was we conducted focus groups in which we basically asked the students for their feedback in terms of how they would like to be identified. For some students, undocumented, they don't feel safe with that word. Dreamers, some of them feel like, no, that's not me. So we just wanted to make sure that we, in a way, included and took into consideration the main stakeholder for this type of things, which is our students. Again, one of the best practices that I can tell you is inform yourself. I already mentioned it before, inform yourself of any program, support system, support services that is on campus. It doesn't mean that you have to memorize everything and know it to the T, but the important thing, to be honest, is knowing who you can refer students to. So again, if you're not working directly with undocumented or DACAmented students, knowing who you can send them to is extremely valuable, because to a student, it's not only like, oh, go to admissions or go to financial aid. It's honestly when you give them a name, then they feel taken care of and more connected. Again, some of the colleges might have what they call a task force. That's something that we have at Cuyamaca. So for instance, we have the RISE program, which again, assists the students, but within that program, we actually have a person assigned from admissions, a person from financial aid. We also have our students apply for EOPS if they qualify. So again, they maximize what they are eligible to receive. So for example, if they apply also to Pathway Academy, which is Title V at Cuyamaca, I know, okay, this student needs to talk to this person in financial aid. So again, I don't send them just to financial aid, especially with everything happening right now. It's very, very important to not so much doing a hand holding for them, but really letting them know, okay, this is who I'm going to send you to. Again, establish a connection with students. We just saw it, how like the students might have felt like uncomfortable first when they disclose their status, but after they start feeling like, oh, this person is hearing me out, is taking the time, is not judging me, like honestly, that goes speaks so loud to students. And create a safe space. So for instance, what we have at Cuyamaca is, I'm actually the facilitator for Undocu Ally training. And basically with that, we give more, in a way, more training, more education to our staff, and our students actually are also part of that as well, because we feel like it's super important for the students to have a voice, and for staff and our instructors to also hear what they have to say. So again, creating a safe space, we usually provide anybody that is part of this training with a little certificate that they can put on their office. So that way the students know, okay, this person went to the training and I can feel a little bit more safe with them. Again, connect with services offered at your college is super important. Again, it doesn't mean that you have to memorize everything, but knowing who you can send the students to. Again, for instance, like with our program, with RISE, we have a counselor part of the program. Unfortunately, as many of you know, she's only part-time, so we're limited in terms of how many hours she's doing with students. So we have partnered up also with the Career Center to make sure that whenever students need help with resumes or practice for interviews or doing different things, that they have that support as well. And it's not only like feeling like, okay, yeah, we want them to feel like you're part of the RISE program, but more importantly, you're part of the campus community as a whole. Again, ask how you can support them. Sometimes I feel like with undocumented students, we feel like we know how to support them, but sometimes it might not be the case. So again, like, what can I do for you? If that's the case, maybe they only need to be heard and to, like, let things out. Again, if they're doing that with you, that means that they feel comfortable. But again, be mindful that again, not to say that you're not more than prepared to do certain things, but keep in mind that their situations might be, we don't want that to escalate. So sometimes you might need to refer them, again, not only to support services in terms of like financial aid, admissions, and other things, but also like their actual like mental health as well, because they go through so much. And again, sometimes they might feel like no one in their household understands what they're going through. So again, real quickly, I want to go over options for DACAmented students. So basically, again, the DACA is the working permit. So students can apply to almost any job. The one thing you definitely want to make sure that you educate them about is they're not required to disclose their status at all, because usually when they complete an application to work, they have to complete an I-9 form. And in that form, it's going to ask for the social security number. Again, it is a social security number, but it's not the same as for U.S. citizens or residents. So that's very, very important to know that difference. Again, some of the benefits of the DACA is it provides a permission to stay in the U.S. It provides a working permit and a social security number that they can use. And for a good chunk of them, they actually can get driver's license as well. Again, some limitations of it is not pathway to U.S. citizens or legal residency. Again, not a lawful status, only lawful presence. And unfortunately, this does not provide any benefits for family members. And right now, as it is, the current permit is actually, I'm so sorry, my mistake there. It is renewable. However, they don't accept new applications. There was some changes with the current administration. In the past, this permit was given to the applicants for 2 years. Unfortunately, again, with the current administration, things change, and they went the permit was only given for 1 year. And unfortunately, they get charged the same amount. So the applicants have to pay close to $500. It's $495 for, again, a 1 year working permit. And again, only those that had it before can reapply, but no new applicants can. You probably have heard some things in the media. So hopefully in the next couple of months, that's going to change. So again, if you have someone that already has that information or that will get those updates, please make sure that you figure out who that is. That way you can better assess students. Again, I was checking Immigrants Rising this morning, and they have pretty like updated in terms of their information. So that's definitely another resource that you can use as well. But again, I would definitely recommend that you check in with that. For some of our local colleges, we have, for example, Cuyamaca, we offer legal services through the Jewish Family Services. So I would definitely encourage you to, again, if you don't know the contact person, definitely find out who that might be, and they can assist you with updated information. So I definitely want to give you more information for our the students that have an undocumented status. So this means that these students don't have DACA, which means that they don't have a working permit. So because the current administration in the last couple years did not allow new applicants, you probably see, or we have seen, an increase of students that don't have that permit, unfortunately limiting them into what are the things that they can do. However, I feel like students, and maybe as educators, we feel like the only option is that, and if they don't have a working permit, there's nothing else that they can do. That's actually not the case. there are opportunities, and the things that I'm going to go over right now is actually not only for undocumented students. Anyone, whether they're U.S. citizens, residents, they can also take advantage of these things too, but it's definitely good for undocumented students, and it's let's see. So it says, here's a question. So if a young undocumented adult does not have DACA, is there any way they can help to legally work in the U.S.? So yes and no. Unfortunately, what that means is they wouldn't be able to work, let's say, for example, if they wanted to apply for work study on campus, they usually, through financial aid, they get to work on campus, and let's say the admissions office or financial aid office or assistant an instructor. They wouldn't be able to do those type of jobs because, again, they will have to complete an I-9 form, and that form requires for them to provide a social security number and basically provide, in a way, documentation that shows that they have lawful right to work in the US. But thank you for that question, because I'm gonna go over what might be other options, because again, there's definitely other options for the students. So one thing that I want to clarify is this is not considered employment, because again, they don't go and apply with someone. The options are independent contracting, for them to actually create their own businesses. And I'm going to go over again these things. The third thing will be joining a worker cooperative. Again, these are independent things, meaning that they're still required to pay taxes and basically report how much they're making. They're just doing it differently. So usually, again, going back to the I-9, the individual will have to provide a social security number, but it doesn't mean that that's the only way. Again, if they do any of these three things, they could still provide basically evidence that they are paying taxes, but they'll get two other things. One, again, if they decide to be an independent contractor, and I'm going to explain that again or give you more information on that in a minute, that is basically they have to complete or have an ITIN number, and that stands for Individual Tax Identification Number. So do know that if your students are already being claimed in taxes, if their parents are already completing taxes, they probably already have that number. So they don't want to get an extra number because, again, that's kind of like a way of telling the IRS this is the individual and this is how much they're earning, things like that. Or if, in contrast, the student, instead of doing an independent contracting, which will be their individual selves, they want to do a business, then they will instead apply for an IEN, Employment Identification Number, and that will be a number specific to their business. And again, I'm not here to give any legal advice, but I definitely would recommend that you speak to any legal support that your school might have. Hopefully you have it, because we definitely want to encourage students to, I know there's so much fear, especially with everything happening right now, but I always tell my students, talk to legal aid, get as much information as possible, because I've been hearing from some of my students that either they don't do taxes or their parents don't do taxes. And unfortunately, they don't see that that could actually affect them in the future, because by doing taxes, they're showing that they're active members of our society, that they're paying taxes. That's one of the things that the misconceptions that some individuals have about undocumented individuals in the US, that they basically don't have to go through the same process as others do, and they actually do pay taxes. They just unfortunately don't get anything back. So with that in mind, if your students if this is something they're interested in, and again, I'm going to go over more information, please definitely refer them to the Immigrants Rising website, because they actually created a separate website to basically assist students in that process of whether it is doing independent contracting, what that means, or if they want to do their own business, because they help out with everything. So it is an amazing website. I would definitely recommend for any of you to go. And I'm actually going to share a little bit of that right now. Hopefully the sound is better than the other one. And I will definitely encourage you if you are interested, look into this. It's very, very interesting information for our students.
We've been talking about when.
Can you guys hear fine?
It's still a little low, Veronica.
Make sure. Let me see.
Other webinars, we're talking about independent
Is that
contracting.
a little bit better? Someone. Okay. And again, I'll be sharing the links too.
And we want to make sure that you know the key differences. Although these are not the only differences, we want to make sure that you get an idea of what some key differences are. So for one, independent contractors usually do not have employees. And clients hire you directly as an independent contractor. Whereas as a business owner with a formal business structure, your likelihood to hire employees or other contractors. In addition, clients see you as part of your business, and they in return hire your business and not necessarily you. And one example of that can be actually, for example, if you're going to go get your taxes done by, let's say, somebody that you know that can do taxes and does it maybe out of their house only during tax season, they may not necessarily be employed or working at H&R Block or at Dun and Dun Taxes. Those folks would be independent contractors if they don't have a formal business structure. In return, however, if they have a business structure, you may hire an agency, for example, Dun and Dun Taxes, H&R Block, who will then assign somebody else, their employee, to actually be your tax preparer. So that's one example the way to think about the differences between an independent contractor and a formal business.
Let me give you a little bit more
examples in terms of independent contracting. As the video explained, that one is basically the individual worked on their own offering services. So for example, these are some of the things that our students could do. They could offer tutoring services, they could do website design, social media managing, marketing, data analytic, and if you recall, most of this, except with tutoring, like students could do like maybe certificates at your campus, or I mean, depending on their major as well. But it's definitely a good way of students to start earning some money without necessarily being employed with someone. Now, do realize, and as this mentioned, is they're working independently. So they'll have to do their own, making sure that they're reporting taxes, they're doing all these things. And again, that website, what I liked about it is at the bottom of it, it tells them like, okay, which one are you interested in doing? And it provides them the steps to do it as well. So again, these are some of the things that the students could do meanwhile, so they can earn a little bit of money if they want to work. And if you think about it, if that is related to their major, it's really going to help them as well to build their resume. So it's an excellent way of them earning some money. Again, making sure that they're going through the proper channels and doing all the paperwork that they have to do. So I will be sharing this with each one of you. So if you have any student who might be interested in this, They, again, in Immigrants Rising, they have this really cool guide that is called 5 Tips for Educators to help students, again, get started with the idea of doing either independent contracting or freelancers. So basically, again, letting the students know, okay, what are the steps, what are the things. You don't have to necessarily do it, just guide them through the process and let them know, okay, these are the resources that you can access to get the information that you need. And again, Immigrants Rising is amazing. If you go to their website and on DocuHustle, they actually have like interviews with different individuals that provide students with ideas, or maybe, again, they might be thinking like, oh, there's nothing that I could do, but depending on what their strengths are, there's probably something that they can do. So again, it's kind of important to validate the students and letting them know, okay, if your strength is in math, especially math, English, science, maybe tutoring is a good idea. So again, some of the things that this guide goes over is, again, learning the basics of working kind of on your own to earn this income, understand how that works in terms of contracting, freelancing, and again, help students develop an entrepreneurship mindset, identify some support that we have on campus. So for example, again, I'm not an expert on this, but I know of a program that we have at Cuyamaca that focuses on entrepreneurship for small businesses. So I connected with the instructor that is in charge of that. It is a certificate, and they just have to do it in a couple semesters. So it's definitely something that some of our students are interested in. And again, it's this, sometimes when students hear this word, is like, oh, it's a business, I'm going to manage something. Well, for some of the businesses that this instructor shared with me before, is some of the students want to be bakers, do different things. It doesn't necessarily mean like they have to work for someone, because again, they cannot do that. This will be on their own. Just again, making sure that we're connecting them with the proper resources. And again, develop partnerships with CBOs, community-based organizations. I'm going to go over that in a minute as well. And I have, again, a video that is going to provide examples of these different things and how some colleges actually set it up in their college and how it works. Again, start a business. Like the difference between students, like, again, applying for working is they could be asked, okay, what's your status, your social, all of that. Now with starting their own business, as I explained before, they actually do the EIN number. So they don't have to provide that information. So it's more, in a way, it's more protection for the students, because instead of them necessarily being like, okay, you're the individual, they look at the student as a business. Again, this avoid questions in terms of immigration. So whenever like students, for example, with their own business provide services to someone, they usually don't have to ask for that type of paperwork. Access to financial capital for business means that the students, because again, it's a business, they could actually go to a bank, get a loan to make their business a little bit larger. And that's basically the next one, because that's kind of the contrast with the previous one, because this one, again, is a business rather than contracting like on their own. And again, cost effective in terms of when one of our students, if they decide to do their own business, they can actually hire other people. So that's, again, the beauty of it. Like, they can make it a little bit bigger than just themselves. And one of the things I mentioned at the very beginning is kind of educate yourself of some of these resources. Again, you don't have to know the ins and outs, but one of the things I found is that if the students are interested in beginning a business, if they visit this website, venturalize.org, they can actually put their zip code, and it tells them like what would be the resources around their area to start supporting their business as well. So it's very interesting things out there for students. And again, as I mentioned, if you visit the Immigrants Rising, or if you just want to send it to the students, they are various of students sharing like how this helped them. And basically, one of the things I also found is before DACA was in place, this was the way that a lot of students were basically obtaining an income before, because DACA wasn't in the picture, so they didn't have that working permit available. Worker cooperative. So if this is too much for a student, because think about it, a small business means they have to do tax forms, they have to make sure that they're keeping on top of like payroll and other things like that. If it's too overwhelming for students, there are also these worker cooperatives, and it's basically kind of like a legal buffer for the students, and it's like a middleman. So it's the student, and then there's a cooperative, like a group of people that they're part of. The student is the one doing the work and the service. They just, again, that middleman is the one that receives the money, but then the student gets paid. Now, the beauty of this is because it's part of the business model, they I believe they get portion of their payment deducted, but that means, like, again, they're saving up that money, and some of it because of the support that they get. So meaning that the students wouldn't need to worry about doing the payroll and all of that. This cooperative will do it for them, but again, they're co-owners of their business. It doesn't mean that they're working for anybody, because they're under the same circumstances. They don't have the social, again, they're investing in a business, and they definitely have a vote on the decision making and how the business runs. And how can one of our students benefit from this is, let's say, for example, we have a recent graduate student in computer science, which unfortunately, again, if they don't have a social or the working permit, they wouldn't be necessarily able to apply for an organization to work for them. So they can basically work for the cooperative, and they're the worker owner. And again, they can work with multiple clients. So it doesn't mean that they'll only work with one. And again, they'll get the payment directly from the cooperative. And some of the examples they provided was, again, graphic design, bookkeeping, interpretation and translation, IT services, web and software management. So again, remember, like, a lot of these are things that our students already have a lot of experience with. So it can be a job that they do while they're in school. Like, for this student, it could be great to have it maybe even before. I know our students always have that question, like, how soon should I have like this experience that I need? So definitely I would recommend for them to do it sooner rather than later. The last thing I want to go over is fellowships. And as you know, basically a fellowship is a way to support students in like their education and professional development, regardless of work authorization. So that's the beauty of fellowships. And again, that provides with either stipend, like a scholarship, and they basically are part of like assisting someone in terms of a pursuit of study, of research. I mean, the beauty of this is the students get the experience they need. Now remember, they're not working for someone. This would be like, okay, they are obtaining professional development or professional experience through this. And this could actually be sponsored by colleges. Obviously, it depends on the budgets and other things. They might need to be allocated a little bit differently. And again, Immigrants Rising offers like steps that you can do at your institution if you're able to set this up. Or again, I will definitely figure it out. I believe that the first place that you might want to check if that's even available at your campus will be the financial aid office. But again, it's something that is out there. So hopefully, if you are able to and have the power of it, I would definitely recommend it. If you're not necessarily the person directly working with undocumented students, this is a great idea to maybe establish at your college, because again, the students really, really need this support. And again, we see that they get great experience. Most of them have excellent grades. It's just having this extra thing that they have to do that they don't always have access to. So real quickly, I want to show you a quick video. I'm so sorry that I know that this sound system is not the best. I'm not exactly sure why. And again, I'll be sharing the link as well, because this one is particularly important because it talks about those three things that we said. And you might want to see how that's going to be established if you're interested in establishing something like that for your students. It's just very important to have that support. Let me claim.
You started the program at your respective college or university.
I'm so sorry. Can you guys hear fine? Lisa?
This one is very low, Veronica, to hear
Very low? Okay.
on my end.
Let me try.
Let me know if that's better.
For undocumented students at UC Irvine.
Was that better?
Yes, a little better.
Okay, thank you.
But he's now working at Western State.
Learn more about the great work you're all doing on the ground. So if you could all turn on your videos and unmute yourselves at this time, please. Great, thank you. I can see Oscar, Elisa, and Jose. Thank you. So the first question I'm going to start off with is if you could all please describe your program and how you started the program at your respective college or university. And Jose, let's go ahead and get started with you.
Yes, thank you, Lana. So as Vanessa mentioned, we had already this the Mexican Studies Scholarship Fund, and so after it was over 7 years. Having different cohorts of students coming through CUNY throughout the 25 campuses of CUNY and graduating, we saw the need of also providing opportunities for our students to join the workforce. And because most of them were not even documented, they did not have DACA, most of them were undocumented, what we started to look for were partners to see if there were models, and this is how we got to Vanessa, to Democracy at Work Institute. And so we started the conversation to see if we could partner and they could offer options for our students, which were already self-starters and they were prepared and highly qualified members of our programs to join a co-op. And it's how we started the conversation with them. And then last year we started, our students started our graduates, the co-op.
Great, thank you so much, Jose. Oscar, would you like to share with us a bit about the fellowship model that you were able to implement?
Sure. So the fellowship that we started at the University of California, Irvine was a 3-part program. We provided an experiential learning fellowship that was a year-long placement in a partner site, which was an office somewhere on campus. We also provided a professional development seminar that student participants were able to take. Finally, we provided a scholarship in the form of compensation. And the scholarship was designed so that it provided economic parity with employment. So the scholarship was the same amount that the student would have received if they had been a student employee in the same spot. And this program, the vision for it really came from students on campus that were pushing for ways and trying to create ways to implement the skills that they were learning, that they were developing through their education. And then the implementation of the program was a partnership with the Dream Center on campus, our HR department, our Office of Financial Aid, Student Services, and our campus council.
Great, thank you so much, Oscar. And Elisa, talk to us a bit about how the entrepreneurship certificate program was started at LA Trade Tech.
Awesome. So at LA Trade Tech, the College of Business was starting to write the curriculum for an entrepreneurship certificate program that is non-credit based. So that means that it would be free to students and it was still certified through the state of California. What we wanted to do is incorporate that with the curriculum that Immigrants Rising has included in their resources, which are webinars and workshops specifically to help our undocumented students understand how to navigate and set up an actual business, whether it was how to get their ITIN, how to do proper taxes, bookkeeping. So what we did is we used what the curriculum is, which is laying the foundation and theoretical background on building a business, and then adding the workshops specifically for our undocumented students. And it was a collaboration with the academic side and the student services side.
Great, thank you so much. And I see that we have a lot of questions related to funding, and we will definitely.
So I'm not going to play the entire video. Again, I'll share with each one of you. That way you can see it. Again, it's very interesting. They talk about funding. They talk about how long it took for each of these things to get implemented. Again, I'm not trying to give you more things to do, but it's definitely a great way of maybe bringing it to your schools and seeing if they can do anything like this to support undocumented students on campus. Make sure. So real quickly, I just wanted to go over, because some of you might be very familiar with this. We have a variety of students that have, again, interest in terms of being or majoring in business, some type of like branch of medicine, public health, nursing, engineering, law, social work, or education. So again, this is another great resource that Immigrants Rising has in terms of, okay, what are the steps for that? Unfortunately, some of the things that I found was that unfortunately there are some obstacles for students to complete some of these majors. And not that they're not able to, but unfortunately because of the lack of financial aid. And one thing I wanted to clarify is that financial aid that I spoke about earlier, the California Dream Act, it only covers the students up to when they obtain a bachelor's degree. After that, that's when they definitely want to apply for fellowships and other things as well. So if you have any students interested in pursuing something after a bachelor's degree, unfortunately, that's one of the biggest obstacles that they face. Again, something else that you'll find in the Immigrants Rising page is they actually post a variety of scholarships. And it's actually really nice because they have a kind of a timeline. So they have different scholarships throughout the year. So please visit that website. It has a lot of amazing resources that our students can benefit from. For some of these majors, as you know, like they actually request for them to report like their social security number. I believe that's mostly for nursing. Some of them, again, have a background check, so it can actually like potentially affect the students. And again, sometimes they cannot really go through the process the same way that other students. Licensing, unfortunately, it is an issue. And for some of this, because of the background check, they are not able to actually complete their required hours that they have to do for their degree. So for instance, I know nursing is a big one in the US. I believe there's 2 states that don't have that requirement, but remember, if your student goes to a different state and then they want to come and work here, it's not gonna work. Like they have to actually have to complete their license here. And again, unable to do these things because they don't have a DACA permit. So one thing I would definitely recommend is hopefully things are gonna go back to them applying, or I'm sorry, accepting new DACA applications. Please encourage your students to, again, hopefully your college has this legal aid support services for undocumented students. If that's the case, they can actually do a consultation to figure it out if they qualify for it. We definitely don't want them to pay $495 to find out that they don't qualify. But if they do, they will let them know ahead of time, okay, these are the paperwork you want to start like putting together, maybe apply for a scholarship if they don't have the money for it, different things like that to, again, provide guidance ahead of time. Real quickly, I believe I already mentioned this, but some of the things that we're doing at Cuyamaca is we have an assigned counselor for undocumented students, assigned peer mentor, which students actually decided they wanted it to be an undocumented student just because they shared that experience. Assigned staff members, again, in financial aid, admissions, and other offices too. And we provided an Undocumented Action Week. I believe most of the colleges did, and I was really fortunate to work with a lot of colleges in the region. And we also, again, complete Undocu-Ally trainings. So anything like that that you can be part of is amazing because that really shows the students how much you care about helping them. These are some of resources that I wanted to share with you that you definitely want to make sure that, again, maybe you want to visit their websites to make sure that you have a little bit more information if you can. Again, I don't want to give you anything extra, or maybe you might want to share this presentation with, again, the individual that is in charge of the program in your campus. So I'm so sorry, I know I'm running out of time, so I definitely want to give some time for questions if you have any.
Veronica, I don't see that we have any questions at this time, but people can feel free to post them. The Whova will be available for, I believe, several weeks. Materials will go up there, recordings. And if you liked our session today, please rate it. There's a little rate session button. There's a like session button. Somebody did that one already. Thank you very much. Veronica, that attests to your great job today. Also, if you can, I would love everybody to turn on their screens right now so that I can document this wonderful moment and take a screenshot before we move on to our next conference presentation. I really thank you all for being here, for listening to us, and for being part of our community today. Veronica, thanks. And do you have any final things you want to say, Veronica?
I just wanted, I don't know if I'm able to, or if you can share my email for me. So I was trying to put it on the presentation and it didn't really work.
Oh, sure. I can do that in the chat. If you chatted to me on Zoom, I can put it on to everybody.
I'm so sorry. It's not giving me the option.
Yeah, it doesn't allow. I will supply it to everybody. I'll get it from our organizers.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me and I'll be more than happy to help.